Hi everybody, it's Kate Luella from Blogger Interviews. How are you going today? Today I have a special interview with a published author who is really interesting to talk to. He's the young Brian Anderson, and I call him young because he's younger than me, but only a fraction, so it really isn't worth documenting, is it? So with Brian, we chatted about his journey as a writer. It's something he came into later in life rather than from, say, age 17. But we talk about how he got his idea for his first book and how he found his first publisher, why he doesn't use an agent, and how he really built up his online platform really with his, well, I think from what he said, really social media and a little bit of his blog, which are all still thriving. He talks about all that. And he also talks about the benefit of combining all these things together to help you as a writer, because as a writer, the writing part of your career is not as big as all the other stuff that goes on in order to get published. So he's an interesting guy. He's very open and transparent about his journey and what works and what doesn't work, and he's got some great advice. And you can find out more about him on his blog, which is briananderson.blogspot.com.au. And then, of course, he does have a web page as well, and that's authorbriananderson.com. Now, if you Google the word Brian Anderson and make sure you put Godling, Godling, because that's what his first range of trilogy books are, the Godling Chronicles. And we do occasionally talk about that. We talk about other stuff mainly, though. But it's an interesting interview. It went a bit long because he's easy to talk to. He's one of those people that you can interview and they don't stop talking, and it's great. It's really good to interview people like that because it's easy. So definitely have a look. He's got a Facebook page as well on the Godling Chronicles. If you look in Facebook search box, you'll find that as well. So here's the interview with Brian now, and we just sort of started talking. We just flowed into it, so there's no real formal introduction. So it's Kate Luella from kateluella.com. Talk to you soon. Bye. All right, now look, I'm just going to grab up my questions because otherwise I just can't remember exactly what I researched yesterday, although I did have fun looking at it. And I have to say, my husband would love your stuff because he's all into that sort of stuff, you know?
Wonderful. Tell you what, I'm surprised. This was written as a young adult book. Yeah,
Right.
but as it turns out, more than half of the people who read my work are 40 and over.
Isn't that scary?
Yeah.
That is scary. It's so scary.
Well, I think
you're
it's
right.
a lot to do with they grew up with the same type of fantasy I did. And,
Yeah.
The fantasy back in the 70s and 80s was very traditional, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way young adult stuff is written. I mean, there's good guys, there's bad guys, and not everybody dies in the end.
Right. And I think it's escapism too. And I guess if they grew up on that stuff, they're looking for more fresh content of that type of genre. So, yeah, they don't actually want to stop reading it. They just read more stuff as well. That's all.
Yeah,
so
you expand. One thing about fantasy is that's something that if you enjoy fantasy as a kid, that you never really lose that.
Right.
It keeps going. You may enjoy other genres, but you never lose your enjoyment of fantasy.
Yeah. Well, that explains why, you're appealing to the older generation as well as the younger generation. So, providing it's quality book.
These publishers, a lot of the large publishers, are promoting books that aren't fantasy as fantasy.
Oh, okay.
Especially that are more leaning towards the horror genre.
Yeah.
People who read horror generally either outgrow it, they stop reading it, or for whatever, it just doesn't last. That's unlike fantasy, which has a much larger audience, and people who enjoy fantasy generally enjoy it throughout their entire lives.
Right. Maybe the people who like horror get therapy and eventually get past that fixation of, I don't know. But
the thing about the movies you watched as when you were young, I mean, you could watch Friday the 13th, and I can't even see myself going to a movie like that anymore.
No. Well, see, I never did. I can't even watch slightly scary plots, let alone full on horror. I guess it depends what you. My 5-year-old loves it. It's a bit sad. I know, it's weird. Now that's really interesting. Look, I just want to. Can I just ask you really quickly? But and I am recording now, so just so you know.
Right.
But I just want to tell you though, because we didn't actually say we'll start. The other thing is, I really wanted to ask you with your books. Now, of course, you're not like 21. So, how did you evolve into getting published? I know I heard your interview the other day that your son, I think it was your son,
Yes.
inspired you with this story. Do you want to start from there and sort of how it got to being actually published? Because a lot of my listeners release digital books on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
but capturing a publisher is something that eludes them. And I think it'd be really worthwhile to hear your story with that.
Well, I got very lucky with my publisher. I hit the right people at the right time.
Right.
They were looking for somebody in my genre. They had heard
Yes.
they had heard about me because I had done a mass amount of. I couldn't really get any traction going as far as sales, but I was constantly on social media trying to get the word out. And
So hang on a minute. So are you saying you published it yourself digitally first and
yes,
then you went to social media and you were always pumping up what you're doing? Okay, yeah.
and I just couldn't get any traction going, and I was very inexperienced. I didn't really know what I was doing, and when um, when I approached GMTA, I approached them, and I asked them if they'd be interested, and they said they certainly would be interested. They were looking for something in fantasy, and they read my first book and became interested in it. And actually, I'd approached them about the second book because I'd written the second book, and they had decided they wanted to release the first one
Right.
before the second one, and so that it just worked out real well. Now, for your listeners who are looking for a publisher, now
Yeah.
that's tough, man. That is just so tough. And it's
Mm,
even, I mean, a lot of people are going to the small press, like where I am, and it's become just as tough with small press because
mm,
the self-publishing world has become so inundated and just with just tons and tons of self-published works that
mm,
to filter through that even for the small press is just unbelievable. Now,
mm.
when you're looking, if you're everybody starts writing, they start writing with this dream in their head. I did the same. They're going to be the next. Their book is great. You don't ever put out a book unless you think it's great. Uh,
Right.
and they're going to be the next big thing in literature. So they immediately think, how do I start? How do I approach a publisher? Well, the problem with that is the bigger publishing houses, you have to go through an agent.
Oh, okay. Is that what you did?
No,
Okay.
matter of fact, I don't even want an agent anymore. I've been approached by a couple agents, and I've told them no, thank you. Um,
Okay.
well, they're not going to do anything for me that my publicist doesn't do. You know.
Right. So you have a publicist as well as a publisher.
Yes,
Is that right?
exactly. Well, my publicist is who you were JKS Communications. They're really really good. They work real hard for me, and they get me the exposure I need. Um,
Yeah.
but see if you so what you got to do now is like try to get an agent. So everybody submits to these agents, and they get rejection after rejection after rejection. Half the times the agents don't even look at the stuff, and so it's kind of a catch 22. Unless you're doing well, you can't get an agent. You can't get and you can't
You
get
can't get a publisher without an agent. Is that what you're
exactly.
going
So
to? Right.
it's just this big mix up, and that's why you have so much in self publishing. Now, me personally, the story behind mine is
Yeah.
um, I'd been writing for years. I'd never really taken it very seriously though. I had written some short stories. I used to write when I was in college. I used to make a few extra bucks writing papers for people, things like that. And I'd always been, considered it. And I was working on this sort of dark, cerebral, sort of um, occult thriller type thing that I haven't touched it since I started the Godling Chronicles. But my son came home from school. He had just a couple nights before had watched Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, the movie that we had rented it on DVD.
Right.
Really, just really excited. My son at the time was about 7 years old, and he's just really really excited. And I was like, well, what's going on? He goes, I have an idea for a story. So I was like, all right, all right. So I stopped what I was doing. I didn't really want to stop what I was doing, but I'm trying to be a good dad. So there,
Yeah.
and he tells me this amazing idea for the story. And matter of fact, in book one, the prologue is action for action. What he told me that first day.
Right, right.
The all the main characters, their names, who they are in relation to the story. They all came from his original idea, and I just thought it was. I mean, it was just so wonderful, and I was like, this would make a great story. This would make a great series of books. So I
Right.
started writing it, and it just really flowed. I had the first draft of book one written in 6 weeks, and
Right.
then it just happened from there. Of course, there was a long 9 month period of me not being able to get anything going, um, and then when GMTA picked it up, it just literally took off like wildfire. They changed the cover, they re-edited it, just went back over it and all that, and it just exploded. And I cannot, I could, if people have asked me what I did, and I said if I could replicate that, I would. I
If I
mean,
could bottle it up, yeah.
if I could replicate what I did, I think honestly, I think what it was a just right thing, right time. Terry Brooks, he's a wonderful, wonderful fantasy writer. On his publisher's website, I saw an interview he did, and it said, what does it take to be a?" One of the questions was, "What does it take to be a successful author?" And he referred to this lady, and I gotta find out what her name is. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but she had actually made a top 100 list of what it takes to be a successful author. Talent was number 51.
Right.
Number two was perseverance,
Right, right.
and
Yeah.
the number one thing you need is luck.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, I would have never thought that. So, but see, that's where perseverance pays off because if you keep at it, at some point you get lucky. It's like a numbers game in selling.
Well, think of the
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling is the first author to ever become a billionaire, right?
Right.
He was rejected like 20 times before he
Yes,
got picked
yes.
up by this small publisher, and then it took off in Scholastics, and everybody knows the story from there. But
Yeah.
he was rejected time and time and time and time again. It
Mm.
takes a lot of perseverance. It takes just believing in yourself, not ignoring the naysayers. But you also got to listen to the people who are out there to help you.
Yes,
There's
right.
there's a lot of indie authors, and there's got people I've tried to help that have just ignored my advice, and
Right, yeah.
then they couldn't understand why they're not doing well. And I'm
But that's not a namesayer, is it? That's someone who's giving you constructive advice.
Yeah, I've like say, well, here's
Right.
what you need to do. Here's what you're
Yep.
doing wrong, and
Yep.
and they and I'm not talking to them out of some, trying to be a know-it-all. I mean, I'm really, really a big supporter of indie authors and people who are just getting started because I really didn't have that many people to help me along. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
be something for some of these people that that wasn't there for me. And there are a few that are doing well. P.S. Bartlett is one in particular, as a book called Fireflies, and this is her first time out, and her book is already on the top 100 top rated in her genre, and
Right.
she just and
And that's her first book, you're saying?
and that's her first book. And
Right. Yeah.
she didn't do everything I told her to do, but she listened to what I was telling her, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
a lot of it is about just getting creative with yourself, I mean, starting grassroots. Hey, this lady held a book signing in her backyard. I'm like,
Right.
that's something you hit, you know.
I love it.
And it was successful. Like
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, that's the things you got to think of. Now, if you're an independent writer and you're wanting to be with a publisher, that's great. You're going to get rejected a lot,
Yeah.
lot, and
Yeah.
be ready for that. Be ready for the criticism. Be ready for them. Be ready for these form letters that you know they didn't read your book. But you know what? You can't be upset about it because you're going through it the same way they are.
Yeah, and of course, they can't read them all. And they, as you say, what are they looking for at the time? If you just happen to approach them when they're looking for what you're offering, they actually might read yours, and that's just the way it goes.
I actually got a rejection letter from a not too long ago from a agent I submitted to almost a year ago.
Right, right, a bit slow off the
And
mark.
and then this agent in their little form letter told me that they didn't think that they could do anything with my work.
Yeah,
And I'm
but they were right. They couldn't.
and I'm like, God, my books have sold nearly 100,000 copies since the last time I said so
Yeah, but
it,
they couldn't do that. That's the point. They couldn't get those 100,000 sales for you. They didn't have that skill or time or interest,
whatever.
but the person you approached did.
Well, like I said, if they're obviously they didn't even take a minute to examine it,
Mm,
or examine me, but that's okay.
mm,
That's why there is self-publishing out there. For there are people you do get tired of the rejections, and you sometimes are just ready to put it on out there.
yeah, yeah.
The thing is, self-publishing has gotten a very bad reputation because there are a lot of people out there that will put out work that's
Mm,
they don't put it through any kind of editing or proofing process,
mm.
and they put a lot of nonsense out there. There was just one guy, I can't remember his name. Hacker Hunter was the name of the book, and this is had paid for this agency or this kind of shady person to give them like several hundred reviews on Amazon.
Oh my goodness. Mm.
And soon as you read this book, you go. I mean, in the very like first page, you're like, "Holy moly!" You know, if you would have spent that money on an editor rather than you know
Getting fake
get,
reviews.
getting fake reviews, perhaps
Mm,
But it's things like that that really give self-publishing a bad name, because there
yeah.
are a lot of really wonderful, wonderful self-published writers in my genre
Mm,
alone. I can think of John Forrester. I can think of M.R. Matthias. I can think of who else? Just at least a dozen in my genre alone, self-published authors who are always in the top 100. You know, and they put out quality work, but you got to
mm,
weed through a lot of stuff before you get that, and that's kind of the rub on the self-publishing deal.
yeah. Well, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
Does your son have a lawyer? Is he going after your commissions? Like is he trying to, get what he's owed in this deal?
Uh,
Or
yeah, you know what? My son got a brand new bedroom in a flat screen, so
oh, okay. So he negotiated well. I'm glad to hear. How old is he now?
he's 10 years old.
Ah, okay. So he appreciates that it's gone really well.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? We've moved down to Florida from New York,
Right.
and this has provided us a way to have a better life. I got to say, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm by no means wealthy, but it has done well for me, and it has given me the ability to provide a good life for my family.
Yeah.
Um,
And help others and stuff. Yeah.
it's just it's been wonderful. My son, he is on the cover of every one of my books.
Oh, that's so. Is he your only child though?
He is. He is.
Oh, well,
We thought about a
okay.
second child, but I didn't think financial burden the second would be a good name.
You see, now it's the other way around. The second child might have been even more creative in ideas, and
Uh,
maybe that cost me money.
I don't know. I think he does good. I was an only child, and I turned out all right.
Yeah, yeah. And tell me, do you go to him for ideas now? Do you sort of sit down and say, "So, son, have you been thinking of any more plots and stuff?" And
See, I try not to because I mean, he really takes off with that kind of stuff, and
yeah,
I want him to write his own material. Um,
okay, that's a great idea.
he came up with a couple of really really good ideas, and he's asked me to write them, and I told him no, that I'm gonna let him
Let him do it.
when he gets older.
Yeah.
And I think it would be wrong of me to continue doing that. And I have
Yeah.
some of my own that I want to approach. Some inside the genre, some outside the genre. Some I'll be doing under a different name. You know, things like
Yeah.
that. So that's kind of the deal with that. If he doesn't want it, I hope he enjoys writing like I do. But if he doesn't, honestly, if he ends up being a toothpaste capper, and as long
Mm.
as he's happy, that's all I care about.
Yeah, that's important. Happiness first. I agree. So I just want to finish on one thing before we move on from this topic. You say that you approached GMTA, but can you tell me how you approached them? Like, did you just write a letter and then send a copy of the book or a link to your Amazon book? What was that breakthrough sort of contact
I
that
wrote
was successful?
I wrote him a query letter. Query letter is basically I pitched them the idea for my book and said I was looking for a publisher, and asked if
Right.
they would be interested in seeing it. They responded that they would. It was pretty straightforward from there. It went rather quickly from there actually.
Okay, okay, that's fair enough. So now I'm interested to talk you a bit about your book though. So you had one book already by the time you published, and then you sort of were writing your second one. They said, look, we're interested in your first, but haven't you put out 3 books now? Is that
Actually,
right?
actually, that's true. We got the fourth one coming out next month.
Fantastic. So it's just an expansion on the original storyline. So they just keep carrying through, or they?
It's a series. This is going to be a 6 book series.
Okay.
And if I could have done it in a trilogy, but the problem with being an independent author is when you write like 800 page books, um, the printing costs for paperback copies get unreasonably high,
Okay. Right.
and you can't. It makes a $30 paperback. Nobody's going to buy that.
Right.
So
Right.
you got to keep it around 300 pages, which is why which is why there's going to be 6 books instead of 3. The fourth one, like I
Right.
said, is written is in with the editor, wonderful editor. I got now. Had to go kiss a lot of frogs to get to the prince, for as far as a good editor goes. But
Right.
a guy named George Stratford over in the UK, he does a wonderful. He's a great writer in his own right too. He writes adventure, men's adventure.
Ah.
But he's actually a wonderful writer, but he's a fantastic editor. He went back over all 3 of my other works before he took on the fourth one, and so he knows how to do a really good impression of my writing. So if he needs to change something, he doesn't have to call me for every little thing.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. So the publisher doesn't have their own editor. They actually just contract them in per book, do they? Is that what they do?
Do have their own editor. I prefer to use somebody that I like to work with,
Okay.
so I go outside of them. I don't. To me, it's worth it. I mean, to have somebody that I can work with. Pardon me. George has almost become like a partner more than just my editor.
Right. So
And
what happened to your day job? Did you have a day job?
I did. I did a lot of
Is that
things.
gone now or?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is all I do for a living now.
Okay. Right.
I'm able to do pretty well just on the money I make from my writing. Before I did this, I was a car sales manager,
Wow.
which I mean, there's a list out there of over 200 that this one lady knows about, people who are independent writers making their living through simply their writing, and every one of them was something else before they did this.
Of- Yeah, yeah.
But
That's
it
interesting.
came to a point though that I believed in this so much, and I just knew in my heart that this was going to be what was going to make it for me. I actually stopped working in the car business, took a job at a deli so I could have more time to network,
Right.
and worked at a deli for a while. Um,
Is
cutting.
that before you had a publisher though?
This was right. Yeah, it was before I had a publisher, and right into me having a publisher. And
So really, the first person that really believed in you was you. Really, from the day one, you knew you could do this. You just had to work through the process.
I felt it. I mean, I know, people are very biased about their own work, but I knew this was a good idea. I knew if I could get just the first couple steps in that it would take off, and it turns out I was right. And it
Mm,
was a very, very, but it was a risky investment, and it's
mm,
scary to try to think of it in those terms. And there are several writers out there that are doing well, but they're afraid to completely commit because
yeah,
you think to yourself, what if they stop liking my work? Well, that's
yeah,
a risk. It is. But that's a risk with anybody. You know.
yeah. Fear is the biggest motivator in life. So it can make you do something, and it can also stop you doing something. So you obviously, braved through that, and it's paid off, which is brilliant.
It,
Very exciting.
yeah.
Can I? Sorry, go on.
No, no, no.
Well, what I was going to say, I noticed your blog, and of course, my listeners all may have a blog or want to get one, and I'm just interested. Do you do a lot on your blog? Is that a way you engage with your readers or not?
Yeah, to an extent, I do. Uh,
Okay.
I use it when I first started out. I wasn't really sure about its effectiveness because it's hard to kind of gauge because I look at things as far as from a sales perspective.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what it's done for me is help me continue to engage with my fans on a more consistent basis and let them know what's going on with me, let them know things I want to talk about, let them know
Mhm.
more about me personally, things that they won't catch on Facebook. Um,
And can I ask you questions and things on that? Do they do that?
what's that?
Can they ask you questions? Like, could
Oh
they
yeah,
come onto your blog? Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
ask me anything they want. I mean,
Yeah.
also,
And it's direct access. Yeah.
no, I have a web page as well. You know,
Okay.
and this if for people who want a blog and as a marketing tool, I always suggest, and I've been asked this before, what I think about that. And I think a blog is a wonderful tool. But I think it's a single tool in a box of tools. It's one tool in the
Yep.
box, and
Yep.
you need to be diverse. You need a good blog. You need a good website. You need a good Facebook page. You need a good Twitter account. You need all these things. They combine, and the way things are set up now, you can run everything from your blog or from your website or wherever you want to run it from. And
Mm.
but more specifically to the blog, what I do there is my more personal stuff. Stuff that, like, if you look at it, there's sometimes I just put stuff that I've done. I don't, just little odds and ends. But I also write personal thoughts there, which I can't really do on my website, which I can't really do on Facebook effectively.
Mm.
What
Well, I think you've got more space on your blog, whereas on Facebook and Twitter, it's quite short. You've got to be quite to the point, whereas you could have a long conversation on a blog post, I suppose,
Yeah,
really.
and you can really let yourself go and let yourself write. And now,
Mm.
as a writer, I got to be really careful about what I write, and I got to really be careful about the political end of things.
Mm-hmm.
I want to step too deep off into more controversial issues, especially being that I'm young adult, and I could possibly influence young kids.
Right.
And I don't really want to do that. That's not my place to do that. My place is to tell them a story. It's their parents' place to
Yeah.
influence them that way.
To raise them. Yeah, exactly. But do you collect emails? Do you build that sort of community?
I do. I'm in the beginning stages of that. I have a guy that did my website, a guy named Tom Rydell with Magic Pen Web Design. He did my fan site, and that's where I get, like, that's the best place, like, I get emails from, because I have a couple of different email accounts, and there, when it contacts me, it never goes to a spam folder. It goes straight to me, and I know where it's from. I know what it's about. If
Mm.
somebody
Mm.
contacts me through my fan page, I
Mm.
know immediately, right away, that this has something to do with my work. So
Mm.
I'm more likely to pay attention to it. I always respond, you know, And that's a good thing to have. I said, and you can access the blog through the web page, which is a great thing,
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't actually have to have two blogs going on at the same time, which can be a real pain. You can, go down there, clicks, go straight to my blog spot. And like I said, it's a wonderful tool, but it's a combination. It's things you use in conjunction with other things. And I've seen a lot of writers, especially, that like saying, "Well, I don't get all that many hits on my blog." I was like, don't worry, it takes time. I get about 100 hits a day. I get about anywhere from 50 to 100 hits a day on my blog.
Yeah, well, I think you got to promote it too, and you can promote that through your social media.
Exactly. And there's people who will keep track of it. And you can't let I only got 19 members, but I got a lot more people that follow it via email that didn't actually join the blog. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. The members are low, but you still get a lot of views.
and I get a lot of views. And the thing is, I can kind of gauge about how many people, because as soon as I put out a post,
Mm.
um, I can see how many. I can see the big spike in views. And
In the traffic. So do you watch that? Do you, your analytics?
I do sometimes, just
Okay.
more out of interest than anything else.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
really drive yourself nuts with that kind of thing.
Everyone says that to me.
You can drive yourself absolutely insane
Yeah.
looking at the numbers, and the numbers are important, but the numbers are the numbers. Staring at them is not going to change them. You know,
No.
and what you need to do is just keep going.
Yeah.
Remember that it's one tool, one thing.
Yeah.
For writers, I've seen so many of them. They'll do a blog tour. They'll either set it up themselves, which is really hard to do because you got to know all the bloggers, um, and get them all done in a certain space of time, or if all their GMTA sets them up for their authors, or outside sources such as JKS will set you up a blog tour, and then they expect their blog to their own personal blog to have this big spike or have this big spike in sales, and when it doesn't happen, they can't understand why. And I'm like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's one thing, man.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
It's not whether or not you have a blog, which I recommend for anybody that is trying to get the word out about anything. You need to have these. These are things that are expected of you.
Yeah,
Uh,
don't put all your eggs in one basket sort of
but don't put
philosophy.
yeah, but don't expect that one thing to push you
Mm.
over the edge. It's
Yeah.
you're filling up a bucket a drop at a time. And
So the way I see it, you're talking about strategy, and when you talk about blogging, you're saying that's a tactic. But the actual strategy is to have the overall tactics come together, be it
exactly.
blogging, be it publicists. Yeah. Yeah.
Everything you do is geared to towards a single goal, but
Yes.
you can't expect it to just want to do one thing, to write a blog or have a blog out there, and then expect you to become the next Dan Brown or Stephen King. It's just not
Mm,
going to happen. What I mean?
mm.
And if it happened that way, then every author with a blog would be world famous.
Exactly. Tell me, can I ask you with social media, is there one in particular that's your favorite that you find the best engagement and not return on investment because it's not about money, but just the best value?
Oh, you're wrong about that. It is about money. I mean,
Okay.
really is
Well, I didn't
about,
mean in that sense
no,
though,
no, no.
but yeah.
That's exactly for an author what it's about. I mean,
Okay.
it is about how are you going to make this into your living, and what,
Mm,
and when a lot of these things, the best things cost money. You know, you can't
yeah.
you can't to get a good blog tour going with the top bloggers in the country, the people who people really listen to. That's not cheap. I mean,
Oh.
you got to get unless you already have these contacts. you know but the most successful to me is hiring a publicist, hiring somebody like JKS who really knows what they're doing.
No, but out of social media, is it like Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus, Pinterest? I mean, probably not Pinterest, but
I really couldn't say. I think they're all
okay.
equally equal. I don't see one as better than the other. I see
Okay.
them all as necessary parts of a whole. Um, yeah, they are.
That's a nice way to put it.
You know, I mean, with the thing,
Necessary evil.
it is necessary. I mean, I can't stand a tweet. I can't stand it. I hate it, and I don't do it. I really should do it more than I do. And
Right.
but it's just, to me, I don't think anybody would be interested in what I'm watching on television. You know,
Right.
or that,
Well, they're probably not, but you can tweet other stuff.
I mean, I'm just not that interesting a guy when it comes to my day to day life.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
I
But you could tweet questions about your characters, and I'm writing the next line in this chapter. Does anyone got an idea of how he can die? And that
oh
kind of stuff's engaging and interesting. Probably not so much what you watch on TV, but
oh no no,
whatever works.
that would be scary to me.
Oh, you might get some good ideas,
I,
But anyway, no, that's interesting. I mean, look, I can't stand Twitter either, but I must admit it can get addictive. You got all social media actually can be addictive.
it,
That's the real
I'm on
problem.
Facebook. I don't interact on Facebook much like I used to, though. I
Right, right.
I used to interact a lot, and I just, the popularity of my series has grown, I got to be more and more careful about what I say, and
Yes. Yeah.
I hate that I can't really be myself. That's kind
Well,
of what.
they say that you should be yourself. You know that, don't you? That's what they say now.
Yeah, but
Don't be,
sometimes I'm a jackass, and I don't. I mean.
Yeah, but they say that people will like that about you. No, I'm serious. This is what they're saying now, that people don't have personality. Your viewers know, and they don't resonate with you as much. They'd rather see you make mistakes than see you always being correct. So
Yeah,
I'm just putting it out there.
yeah, I don't entirely disagree with that, but the thing about with me, I would never bet against me doing something stupid.
Right.
I'm almost certainly going to say something that I really, really regret. I don't.
Like a closet Ashton Kutcher or
Oh,
something.
oh my God, yes. Something
Yeah.
like that. This I've had to stop doing certain things. I mean, just because I just don't want to risk my career over saying something that would really offend my audience, which tends to be which I have a lot of younger.
Right.
I do got to be careful about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parents are very particular about the people they allow their kids to be influenced by,
Yeah, that's
and
a good point.
for me to start going out there with some out there views, things like this on these kind of shows, I can say, because not a lot of kids, like young children, you know, or frequent that kind of show. I mean, I have the ones I've done, like the Teen Talk, but I spoke mostly about what it was like to be a younger writer, my advice to them.
Right.
Um, and to try to answer this question effectively is to say, I think the best place to start is on Facebook.
Yeah.
That will give
Okay.
you a feel for social media.
Yes.
It will give
Yeah.
you a feel for what kind of response you're going to get when you put something out there. Because once it's
Yeah.
out there, it's out there. You know.
See, you know what you could do? You could do a Facebook group for young fiction fantasy writers,
You know,
and
that's not a bad
that would
idea.
be interesting. That would go probably really well. And because someone like you is running it, it's not going to go off and go sick and stupid, but just keep it really focused for kids coming up, and even adults. It doesn't have to be kids, but it's a nice little niche genre, and it's what you do, and you do well. So that'd be nice.
There are some that kind of touches on something I try to advise authors about.
Mm,
The author groups. Now, if you're out there and you're trying to network, right?
mm,
And
yeah.
I see the biggest mistake authors will do is start trying to sell their books in these author groups, and they try to
Mm,
market to other in groups populated by other indies. And I'm like,
yeah.
what are you doing, man?
I love that. What are you trying to do? Sell it to your peers?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you're trying to reach the readers. So what they'll do next is they'll go on to Amazon, and
Mm,
there's these forums on Amazon, and you're not allowed to self promote on them, but they'll do it anyway. And all they
mm,
do is really upset the posters there, the you know,
yeah.
and they'll just boycott them. They won't, and I'm like,
Mm,
okay. And one thing you can remember about social media is you got to be smart about how you present yourself too. Look,
mm,
with your blog is about you. Your Facebook page is about you. Your your website, it's all about you. But
Um, um, it's a little bit. Are you talking into the mic properly?
no, is this better?
That's better. Yes. Sorry. Go on.
All your social medias, like your blogs, your websites, your Facebook page, those are
Yep.
all about you, and they should be.
Yeah.
But when you start venturing off into other people's forums, which you're going to inevitably have to do,
Yeah.
get the word out, it can't be about you. You got to be smart.
Right.
You got to be smart about it. You can't be this self-promoting, just bull in a china shop talking about me, 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 me. Nobody's going to listen to you.
Yeah. In Australia, we have a bloke called James Shranko, and he is a marketer, and he said on social media, be interested, not interesting, which is
Exactly.
exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
And go in there, go into these like the chat rooms, the blog, the discussion groups and stuff like that. It's fine to let them know that you're an author. It's fine to let them know, or whatever else you're doing. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
this applies to anything. It's fine to let them know that that's what you are. But
Yeah.
then let it go. Then leave it alone, and start taking part in the discussion. What happens is that these people, these are readers. These aren't the writers. These are the people you're really after. Now,
Mm.
they start to get interested in you, you know, being that you are taking part in the discussion. Not to mention that talking about books is just really, really fun, you know. Um, but they become interested in you, and they'll give your book a chance. Then they'll tell people, and this is how you get your name out there. Now, if you
Mm.
just go in there and say, "Hi, my name's John Doe. I wrote this," and then that's all you ever say, they're just
Mm.
gonna to them you're a spammer.
Mm.
And
Exactly. Exactly.
but if you go in there, "Hi, my name's John Doe. I wrote how the ants marched over the hill." Um, it's in this genre. I'm pleased to be a part of this forum, and then start taking part in the discussion. You know,
Yeah.
every so often add in, "Oh yeah, when I was writing this," you can add these things in with real subtlety, without being completely over the top about it. And they do. They become interested in. They become curious about you, and
Yeah.
they become, oh well, this guy really has good taste in books. He writes
Yeah.
well. He writes, his blogs are well thought. He has, he seems to have a good mind. Let me check out his story and see what it's like. Then they,
Yeah. And then you find out he's 10 years old.
yeah, right. Well, or they click, yeah. But you know what? A 10-year-old can buy a book just as good as a.
That's exactly right. Yes. I love that though. Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're not trying to invite yourself over to their house, you're fine.
Well, no, that's right. Yeah. But see, you can monitor that if it's in your Facebook group. So,
I,
you know what? And you could also do like a high level mastermind where you actually run a niche little group. Maybe you have a joining fee or something, and you could do group calls like group coaching now they do once a week just for the people in your group. And you could do all sorts of stuff with this now if you wanted to online.
well, I tell you what I'm trying to do right now in this area. I'm going to try to get myself involved in child literacy and different
Mm.
and with young storytellers. I'm not going to limit that to just personal interactions, with face to face. But I think what I would try to do is like kind of build a template off that, because
Mm.
you have to have a format. I can't just go out there and say, okay, this is, you got to have some sort of format somewhere to go.
Are you talking about free or are you talking about selling that?
Oh, free. You know what?
Okay, so you need a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Podcast, just pump it out once a week. You can record them 6 shows in one day, but you roll it out one a week. So it's not really taking much of your time, but your audience get the value every week fresh. And they can go back and start from the beginning if they join in when you've got this sixth podcast. They can actually go back to iTunes and find number one
Yeah,
and roll out each show, you know?
yeah, yeah. I did a podcast radio with Paul the Book Guy not too long ago. That was a lot of fun, and they had the cameras and all that set up. It was really cool.
Oh, okay. I meant audio, but yeah, you can do video. Video is so much work. This is much
I, would,
easier.
I wouldn't need. No, that's another thing I need to do is, I got to get myself a little more educated as far as the technology goes, because I'm old school. I grew up with before cell phones, so
Right, right. I sort of did too. But do you know what? You're younger than me.
Am I?
I saw your date of birth, as long as it's true online, and I'd never put my true date of birth online. That's crazy. But yeah, I know. I'm not going to say how much younger, only a fraction. But yeah, isn't that amazing? I mean, it's so funny. It's our generation is different. I get it.
So again,
But that's why I was so excited to talk to you.
well, we're the last of a generation to grow up without the current technologies,
That's
as a
right.
mainstay. And
I know.
and I love it. I have several indie author friends, Haley Coates, a few others that I'm part of a group. That most of them are from Australia. Uh,
Right.
Stephen Ormsby, he writes horror. They're all from Australia, and
Yeah.
I actually do a very good Australian accent.
Okay, give it a go. Say g'day, mate.
G'day, mate.
No, that's
Yeah, normally you wouldn't want to stick a rattlesnake in your rectum. She's such a beauty.
that's outback. That's outback accent. Yeah, they do it where there's beer on tap all day. Yeah, no. In the
Hey,
cities, we've got more class.
caper. Yeah.
Oh no. And the other mistake we make is we often talk quite fast. And so if you don't know, see, I'm talking slow because I'm pacing myself so you can hear me. But normally I talk like this. What are you doing? What are you going with that? It's so fast that other accents can't pick what we're saying. So you got to slow down. Yeah. Anyway, it's good. I'm glad you had a go at a crack.
Yeah. Well, I grew up loving Steve Irwin, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, his kids are coming up through the ranks now doing the same work, so
Oh yeah, hopefully they won't dangle their babies in front of alligators.
well, they probably will, but
Yeah. Well, look, when that guy died, it was a tragedy. But when they said it was a freak accident, I'm like, no, it wasn't. He got
mm,
stung by a stingray.
mm,
They're called stingrays for a reason. If
mm,
he'd got stung by a hug ray or a warm fuzzy ray,
yeah.
that would have been different. No, he got stung.
Yeah, look, I think everyone, yeah, sees, yeah.
He got stung by a stingray. It was a tragic
Yeah,
accident.
he didn't get run over by a bus, exactly.
He
Yeah.
didn't get hit in the head by a meteorite. He got.
He didn't get his leg bitten off by a stingray. He got
No,
stung,
yeah,
exactly.
which would have been like, yeah, he got his leg bit off by a
Yeah,
cuttlefish. And then
yeah, that's right.
no, he
He
got.
swallowed a golfing ball, and that was the problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So,
if he got stung by a stingray, tragic accident is a loss for his family, a loss for I think animal conservation, in general,
yeah,
because the guy did a lot of great things, he
yeah.
really did, and but it wasn't a freak accident. I'm sorry, that's not a freak
No.
accident.
No, I know. We could make a lot of jokes about that, but we won't do that because we do miss him. But listen, I want to wrap the interview up in a minute. So, is there anything, if someone's listening to this and they've got a blog and they write fiction, is there any advice you can give to them to break through? And I know you're going to say persevere, but even beyond persevere, like what should be their next step?
Okay, you have your blog. Um,
Yeah,
Write something on it as much as you can. I don't write as often as I used to on my blog because I simply don't have time. But
yep,
when you're starting out, write as much as you can. Okay, now you
yep,
have your blog. Now you're ready to do some networking. Um,
right,
now you need to start joining these book discussions and these readers groups and things like that. That's your next step. You also need to be aware.
So, where do they find them? How do they find those readers groups?
I googled them. What you
Okay,
do, if you're a fantasy writer, just Google those words. That's what I did, and yeah, and also remember, it's always a good time to tell somebody about you when you meet somebody. Always have get a business card, something with your stuff down on it.
right.
These one at a time things, believe it or not, is how it starts. Um,
It all adds up.
it all
Yep.
adds up, and then you have people talking about you. Then and it snowballs. Remember, whatever town you live in, it's cool to have a writer living in that town. Remember that. Remember, you're a writer. You're a writer. You're something special. Act like it. Believe
I
it.
love it.
And
Yeah.
and the more you believe it, and the more you treat yourself that way, that's when it's going to really happen for you. And a
Yeah.
blog is a great place to start. And number one, it's free. It's
Mm.
but do be careful if you are a writer what you write, because you're going to be judged. You cannot put out write a blog with a bunch of errors and typos, and then expect people to take you seriously as a writer. So there's a lot more pressure than normally would be.
Yeah, but take on that advice and improve it and go again and just keep at it and don't give up, I guess, is the...
Never give up. Never stop, never give up. Keep going no matter what anybody says, because nobody's going to believe in you unless you start believing in yourself. And it's hard sometimes because there's so many people out there telling you no, and to keep saying yes in the face of all this flood of no's is difficult sometimes. But look at me. I mean, I kept going. I believed in myself, and I make my living this way. Am I rich? Not by a stretch, but I make enough to support my family because I persevered. I'm not even all. I'm a decent writer. I'm a better storyteller than I am a writer, and so you don't even have to be. You don't have to be Hemingway. Just have a good story. Persevere. Keep going and just never let up, and eventually something will happen for you.
Find an audience.
Yeah,
there will be someone that wants you to hear your stuff. Keep looking. Yeah,
exactly. You keep going, you will get it. I mean, to get people will always want reviews. It takes 100 submissions to get one review.
Yeah,
Listen to the information that's out there from the more experienced writers. But be careful about that, because there's some writers out there that are not happy for you to be successful.
Okay. So avoid them.
Just be careful about the advice that you take. Try to and everything that you listen to, make sure it has some sort of positive overtones. Some sort of don't nothing about the negativity, because there's enough negativity. You don't need that in your life. What you need is, okay, when you got a blog, be proud of that blog. And then you got a website, be proud of that. Be happy about it. Use that positive energy to keep you going, because believe me when I tell you, there's enough negative energy out there to drag you down if you let it. And just use these things to your advantage. Use the fact, you wrote a book. That's no small thing. I mean, just to write 100,000 plus words is a accomplishment all by itself. And then you take that energy and you springboard it into that. I mean, now I have a blog, now I have a website, now I got a Facebook page, now I got a Twitter account, now I'm part of these, now I'm doing all these things to move me forward. Then that will counteract all the negativity that you get from people. Hey, and oh, there's so much out there. You're one in a sea of other writers. And you know what? They're not wrong, but so what? I mean, that's how is that any different from any other career?
That's right. You got to work at it.
But that's the main advice I can give anybody regarding use your blog as a springboard, as a positive. Use everything you do in social media to excite you. It's exciting.
Yes.
I mean, when I get off this show, everybody I know is gonna see the link to this.
Right.
I'm gonna use that to excite myself. To keep, because it's so hard to keep that level of excitement. So use the things that you do that are positive to keep your level of excitement going.
Yeah.
Do it. Just because I'm selling books doesn't mean I'm not working hard to keep selling books, and that I'm taking my own advice. Every show that I do, every book that I sell, every small win, I try to. I get excited about it. Still, I excited as the first time I did it, because I need that positive energy. So
I mean, writing is only a small part of a writer's career. Yeah. That's really what you're saying.
Writing is actually the smallest part of the writer's,
or the easiest part.
The rest of it is it is so difficult to keep to do the rest for a writer, because you have to be part businessman, part salesman, part this, part that. And then in the end, you wonder to yourself, is it all worth it? And then you gotta be your own life coach, your own everything.
Yeah.
But it is worth it.
And I guess I forgot what I was going to say. I hate that's my age showing.
Huh.
I can't remember now. I'll remember as soon as we hang up. But yeah, I mean, I guess just to keep moving forward and to keep active. I think it was to do with social media. I was going to say use that platform as a tool, like you said, and be interesting, I guess, or be interested in other people was the
Be
key
engaged.
takeaway.
Be engaged. You know,
Yeah.
the moments I remember most are don't have anything to do with my writing. They have to do with my interactions with my fans. Um,
Mm.
this before I would be remiss if I didn't tell this one story before you let me go. This
Okay.
this foster mom over in the UK has a special need child, and book three is actually dedicated to them. Helen, and I can't say the child's name because of legal matter issues, but she has some real emotional, genetic, developmental problems, and they went on a holiday, and one of their routines was to read a story, and forgot her normal books. Well, Helen's daughter had read my books, had them with her on her Kindle, and she connected with them in such a way that it changed her behavior at her school, and she started.
Wow.
It made it.
That's amazing.
It
That's
made
pretty amazing.
impact on her life. Now I just write, fantasy and fiction. I'm a young adult fiction writer. I never
Right.
expect my work to have an impact, but
Yeah.
in this case, it really, really did. And those are the moments you'll remember. It's the moments when you're interacting with your fans, with the people that read your work. That's what's so wonderful. And none of this would have happened without social media. I would never have known about these people. They would have never known about me.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So they connected with you through social media.
Exactly.
Wow. What an amazing story.
I think so. That's one of my
It
favorite.
is. Put that on your blog.
I did. I did.
Ah, well, there you go.
One
I
of the
should look for
archives.
that story.
I couldn't. Helen wrote me a letter about her experience with my books and how it impacted her the child, and I posted the letter immediately. It was so touching. I literally wept reading it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, I love that story. Well, it's a good story to finish up with. So I want to thank you so much for talking to me. I really enjoyed it.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having
Yeah.
me on. Sorry about last time. I was in the process of moving, so.
Oh, no, it's fine. And it's funny. When I go to interview people, I have no idea what I'm in for, And so even this interview, I really had no idea, and it really went in a wonderful direction. And I had no idea all the business side behind publishing, from the writer's perspective. And so it's just because you kind of just have this fantasy that people write a book and they walk in and what do you think? And someone says, oh, we'll publish that. You don't think about the fact that for 3 years you were trying to get someone to notice it and all this. You don't think about that.
Yeah.
So
And that these famous authors went through rejection after rejection.
yeah.
The Harry Potter series got rejected like 20 times.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
you just don't think about that though when you pick it up off the shelf. You just go, oh, what's this book? You're just thinking about the book.
Yeah.
You're not
And,
thinking about the journey it took to get there.
and you know what? And it's all worth it. And it makes you appreciate it all that much more when you do finally break through.
Right. Yeah. It's like having a baby when you go through labor and then at the end you go, oh, well,
Thank
it was
God.
all worth it. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but trust me, it's not an enjoyable process.
I was on the side looking in. So.
Right. That's right. You're looking at it from another perspective there. That's right. It was all worth it for you. Yeah, it was all good. I understand. Yeah. All right. Look, I'll let you go though, Brian. So, thank you so much.
I had a
And
wonderful time, and just let me know anytime you want me back. I'll come back, and we'll have some more.
great. We'll talk to you like in a year's time, and we'll just see what the update is, and if you did the Facebook group, and all that stuff. And
Absolutely, absolutely. I will definitely. I'm actually got to buy a planner, and this is. Oh my God, I can't believe I actually have to buy a planner.
yeah, you do. It's hard online. You don't go to university and learn how to do this. You got to
Oh no, you don't.
learn the hard way. That's it. All right, no worries. But I'll let you go, Brian, and I'll talk to you again soon, no doubt. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye now.
Bye-bye.